Hi, everyone. It's Mandy. Before we go into it, patrons, you are everything. Thank you so much for being supporters of the show, supporters of the Restorative Grief platform everywhere it's found. Because I've been doing this for a while now, but I tell you, running with others makes it so much more enjoyable. So if you're interested in all the premium content, exclusive interviews coming up, or even just supporting the methods and the work because you know it makes an impact in your life and in others, then we would love to have you join us. Check out the show notes for links, and that's it. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Restorative Grief with Mandy Capehart. You are listening to episode 89, titled Soften and Surrender with Caleb Campbell. Okay, so I know I say this often, so often, in fact, that y'all may no longer believe me, but please believe me when I say that I was floored and grateful and honored by this humble and honest conversation that you're about to hear. My guest this week is well-loved keynote speaker and leadership coach Caleb Campbell. Caleb is passionate about mental health and the intersection of success and emotional wellness. These days, he shares his expertise with all kinds of groups, from teenagers to corporate industry leaders. But before that, he was defined by his status as a West Point graduate, former Army officer, and NFL linebacker. As you can imagine, as a grief professional, I was really curious to hear more about how he came to the health and wellness industry without endorsing a protein powder, and why he would leave such a prestigious career and platform to invest professionally in his own inner world. So, our chat today takes us through disenfranchised grief, unmet expectations, loss of dreams, family disconnection, and a lot more. It was an honor to hear his story and host it, and I cannot wait for you to hear his heart as well. Welcome back, everybody, to Restorative Grief. This week, our guest is Caleb Campbell. Caleb, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Mandy.
You're welcome. So you are not our typical guest, and I'm really excited about having you because you're not a grief professional, nor is your main story out in the world about grief. You're this well-loved keynote speaker and
Oh, thank you.
leadership coach, and I love that you are so passionate about that intersection between like success and emotional wellness. And so I would just love to hear for a moment, if you want to tell our audience how you came to that intersectionality and to value emotional wellness in your own story. So just a
Yeah,
little tiny thing, right?
yeah, just a tiny thing. I read a book one day. No, um, I think my entire life has been this pursuit of more. When I say more success, more, a higher way of experiencing life. It has been the pursuit of more, in hopes that I could numb this this really kind of subtle ache that has lived in the underbelly of my life, that has always kind of mirrored back to me that there's something missing or that there is something wrong with me. And I kind of realized early on that it would dissolve momentarily when I had some heightened experience of success. And it would also always return. And so, at some point, I thought that if I could just reach the epitome of success, and there's a lot of religion and growing up in the Bible Belt of Texas with this idea of God's purpose for your life that was kind of tied into all of this. But at some point, if I could just reach this highest level of success, which for me looked like the NFL, I would find what I was looking for, or I would experience the experience that I've been chasing after, which is the inner peace, the inner rest, you know.
Yeah.
But as we know, there was no amount of external work, and this became very increasingly clear to me. There was no amount of external work that I could do that could actually resolve this inner experience. Let's call it like an inner war that I was having. And at that point in time in my life, living in the epitome of my childhood dream, every day was a day of survival, of just trying to hold it all together.
Mm,
hold together this idea of a man that I thought I was supposed to be, that people expected me to be. People called me America's athlete. I'm a West Point graduate. I'm an Army officer, and now I'm an NFL linebacker.
yeah.
Hold together a dream that I just had to keep alive, because for me, when I graduated the academy, I graduated with 972 other cadets. The only difference between me and them is that the majority of them were being sent to war, and I was headed to the NFL. And so I quickly internalized that success in the NFL was non-negotiable. It was
Mm,
my way of giving back. It'd be, in a lot of ways, I guess you can say, my battle to fight, my war to win.
mm,
So holding together this dream that I just had to keep alive. And while I was experiencing the dream, the energy that I was using to hold it all together was teetering, leaving me teetering on the edge of burnout and perpetual dissatisfaction. And wake up enough realizing that the life that you want is not the life that you have, despite how hard you're working. It usually mirrors back that there must be something that's like intrinsically broken in you. And I started that having this experience that led to just immense shame, which led to this helplessness, which led to this despair. And I'm in the middle of my childhood dream, realizing that, oh shit, if something doesn't change and change soon, um, it's only a matter of time before my story is broadcasted all over Sports Center, but not because of a performance, but because I am now a statistic.
mm,
And so when I got cut from the my third NFL team, my agent called me to tell me that the Atlanta Falcons, another team, was inviting me to a workout, and it looked promising, but I just realized that nothing in my life was going to change until something in me changed.
yeah.
And that's when I decided to hang up my cleats and go discover who Caleb Campbell really is.
Yeah. There's a incredible lack of comprehension about how much grief can be generated when we let a dream shift.
Mm-hmm.
When we've
Mm-hmm.
carried this thing that we think is going to be our lives, right? And we fantasize about it and we carry everything we do toward that goal with us. And then we get there and recognize I'm not who I was when I was 13, which is beautiful. I
Yeah.
hope you're not the same at 13 because we've got other conversations to have.
Yeah.
But we get there and then we realize, like, well, but now what? Because I've built everything on this
Yeah.
and I don't know what to go with it. So, how did you start to respond internally and externally when you were like, all right, now what?
What a big question, because it's so nuanced and complicated, but I'm here for it.
That's all I talk about is nuance and complicated things. And most of the time, I expect the person to just walk away or hang up.
Yeah.
And I'm so
No, no,
honored when
no,
they
it's
don't.
beautiful. It's beautiful to give you, and I've shared this on a a really big podcast with 400,000 monthly listeners, and I've had this conversation with my mother, and so I'm not sharing it for the first time here.
Okay.
But to give you some context, when I left the NFL, I called my mom to let her know that I was done, and her response was, "Well, what am I going to do now?"
Oh,
And so you can imagine the codependency and enmeshment that my mother and I had in our relationship. And she was my biggest fan. She was my primary caretaker. My father was in the picture, but he was oil filled and gas, and was, a guy that grew up in Texas, and his way of loving well was providing for the family. But he also, didn't do the day to day, but my mom did. My mom, you know, brought me from one side of the country to the next to attend different camps so that I get more exposure, so that I can have the best life. But my mom also lived wildly vicariously through me. So when I left the NFL, it wasn't me just giving up on a dream. It was my mom losing a part of her dream and her identity as well. And when I told them that I would be moving to Canada and living in the basement of a boiler room of an organization and working as I guess you can call it like a glorified janitor in exchange for free therapy so that I could better understand, they were just wildly confused.
yeah.
And I don't know, and you can probably attest to this through your work or maybe even your own personal experience. I don't know if there is a more lonely experience than the experience of the people that you call your family, like not understanding why you're doing what you're doing, or the people that you're the closest to not supporting why you're doing what you're doing or
Yeah.
what you're doing. And I feel like I've had to grieve the loss of my family before they even left this world. Like they're here still, but
Mhm.
I've had to grieve because it's come full circle now where they kind of can see the life that I've created and be like, oh, this is why you did that. But at this moment in this time, it was hard. It was really, really hard.
Yeah.
Um, and so the family dynamic was just I think, Brene Brown talks about it in the Braving, I think I haven't read it in years, but Braving the Wilderness. Like
Hmm.
it's the journey of learning how to belong to yourself.
Yep.
And I'm walking away from the NFL. A lot of times people hear that part of my story and they can't help but to hear failure. Like you didn't
Mhm.
have what it takes. For me, there hasn't been another decision that I've made, well, outside of the decision to marry the woman that I married, that has led to more profound inner peace in my life. Because it wasn't until I made that decision that I realized that I wasn't living my life as much as I was living for the expectations or according to the expectations that other people had for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a big turning point, but it was also the catalyst to so many internal shifts that would eventually lead to these really beautiful external leaps in my life.
And I hear you say, I left the NFL, and my perspective is, oh my gosh, what is waiting for you on the other side? Because you're
You're a
right.
gift.
As Americans, oh, thank you. As Americans, we have that weird glorification of athletes, right? And I'm sure you've personally witnessed it. I'm a soccer coach for my daughter's team as well, and I'm
Oh,
watching these little girls. I had 30 last week running around me, and some of them just completely focused, and others begging for validation and
mm.
crying. And I'm just like thinking to myself, ladies, all I'm looking for is effort. Like, can you run? Solid. We can teach you all the rest. But what killed me were the comments from the parents watching. We were doing tryouts, and bless their ever loving hearts, I'm clipboard in hand, just observing these kids and trying not to coach as I'm watching. And I hear a dad behind me or a grandpa comment about one of the players and said, well, if only the coach would do something. And I turned and I was like, oh, if the coach cares, she'll do something. And I just thought, oh my God, how am I going to? The parents are the hardest part. I'm like, how am I going to navigate this knowing the level of merging that happens with a child that just wants to be approved of, and appease their parent and impress their parent and be validated and love and impress them. And then the parents who have the audacity to distract the coach who's just watching to see how the girls can do. Can they play well together? I had a couple parents afterwards ask the same thing. I don't want to be that parent, but like, how did my kid do? And I said, then don't be that parent. Let
Oh
them
my God.
be with me. If you haven't noticed, I'm a little confrontational, but
No, it's good.
as I'm listening to your story, I'm thinking about that same thing of like, there is a secondary loss that comes along with recognizing I'm chasing my dream down. I'm pursuing something that I want. Even if the kid says, I don't actually want to do this anymore, mom and dad, how do we as then parents pull ourselves back and maintain a sense of identity aside from, because when we don't, we experience the same kind of trauma that,
Sure.
well, you and your mom probably went
Sure.
through. It's such an intimate loss that it is, I mean, it's widely experienced, but each individual moment and rebuilding of those relationships can be really, really challenging.
So challenging. And I'm even, I have a 15-month old, so she's young, but I am recognizing how important it is for me to grieve the unmet expectations in my own unfulfilled dreams in my own life,
Yep.
because my tendency to already want to live vicariously through her and to get her to do things that dad never could do.
Yeah,
What the fuck? Like, part of my
totally.
language, but how
You're good.
dare I put that pressure on her because I'm trying to get her to live out my unmet expectations or my unfulfilled dreams because I didn't have the courage to grieve them and to heal and to alchemize that pain. It's so sad because when I look back at my own life, there is a wildly apparent correlation between my mother living vicariously through me and the mental health challenges.
Mm.
that I experienced later on in life because I was so afraid to disappoint my primary caretaker.
Right.
And it wasn't just my life now, I am holding the weight of my mother's expectations. And what that did for my mental health for years until I had the courage. And this took years of therapy. Like I'm imagining some people never get here and we are crushed under the weight of it. And so, man, my heart, and I when I speak in schools, which is not too often anymore, but I long for the days that I get the opportunity to speak to parents the night before. I long for those moments.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm not going to tell you how to parent, but listen,
Yeah.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
my story.
It's such a common thing. We don't, it's called parentification, right? So it's this
Okay.
idea that kids are brought up to be the emotional support or relational person to their children, maybe because they have maybe they're single parents and they rely on the kids for too much. Maybe they are um, just lack emotional boundaries in their own relationships and their child becomes someone that is emotionally dependent on them and so they see it as a back and forth and codependency is a big part of it too but that um as we as adults reparent ourselves which is a lot of
Mm,
what you're talking about too
yes.
we recognize oh damn I didn't have a chance.
Yes.
I was actually taught that this is the way and now that I see that this is not the way I'm constantly fighting against my own am I rentifying my child? Am I creating a lack of boundary? We were always worried, like, am I going to be my friends? Am I going to be the cool mom? Am I going to be my kid's
Mm,
friend? Or am I going to be the disciplinarian? When the truth is, like, there's actually a really beautiful middle ground of all of those things where we're not relying on them to satisfy the things
yes.
that we didn't experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
So
That's so
that's
good.
uh, interesting because I'm thinking a lot too about as you were working as a glorified janitor, as you said, to trade for therapy. That is such a ballsy thing to do. I love that because the idea that, I mean, there's no guarantee of an outcome, right? And so you're
No.
going into a place where I am comfortable being completely at the mercy of the unknown.
Hmm.
And while also processing through all of the different secondary losses of family connection
Yeah.
and career change and the big fat where do I go from here? Who am I anymore? All of that. So like how long did you put in for that? How long were you really giving yourself? Because I know a lot of people will be like, all right, I will take 3 months. And then by the end of it, I'm going to be solid and probably write a memoir because why wouldn't I? And, here I am 39 years after all of my trauma, still wondering
When is it gonna change?
when do I grow up?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I feel like I did have that kind of mentality early on. I'm pretty sure I left my bags packed for the first 6 months, definitely,
Awesome.
because I was going to be, somebody that was, important in this world.
Dude, West Point grad,
Come on,
NFL linebacker, of course, you were successful and you had a plan,
I had a
even when
plan,
you're
and I didn't
falling
know what the
apart.
plan looked like, but I didn't have a ounce of emotional intelligence. And but so yeah, I lived there for a little over 5 years.
Wow.
And things changed, but it was a season of leaning into the edges of my life to rediscover the center. And I was under the impression that I would stay there as long as like I didn't know anything afterward. Like I fully committed to that process. I gave myself over to this healing journey of realizing that again, nothing was going to change until I changed.
Yeah.
And it was this beautiful ecosystem that facilitated so many internal shifts for me. And it was hard and it was magical. And again, I was kind of under the impression that I would be there for as long as it takes. And I would be there to support anybody else that walked through those doors that needed some sort of help. Um, I wanted to I wanted to create the same container for other people that they had created for me. And it was just beautiful because it was like the first time in my life where they're like, football? What's football? And West Point, what's West Point? We're from Canada. So I was learning, because when I was in the NFL, they called me America's athlete. I'm a West Point graduate, I'm an Army
Right.
officer, now I'm an NFL draft pick.
Yeah.
And I've lived the majority of my life perfecting this facade, this image that on the outside, everything's good. I've got it under control. I'm America's athlete. But on the inside, obviously, my deepest fear is that I'm going to be found out, right? I'm not who they think that I am. And so to be able to live in a container, an ecosystem where I can begin to, shed the armor and to let go of the facades and
Mhm.
to really allow myself to be fully seen,
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
like suddenly I could breathe again. And I my life changed in a lot of unimaginable ways, but I will say that I was somebody that turned my healing into a performance. It's like I traded out one football for another football,
Totally.
meaning like I'm going to be the best meditator. I'm going to go to more therapy sessions than anybody else. And it's funny because when I have still not yet approved of myself, so I'm still longing for the approval of others.
Yeah.
And instead of getting the approval through making a play that makes a stadium of 85,000 people stand to their feet and cheer, I'm getting the approval of this small ecosystem that I'm now a part of. Brene Brown talks about what a culture values we fear that we are not.
Mhm.
And they valued growth. They valued intimacy. They valued, it was a church, just to be, fully transparent.
Sure.
And I grew up in the evangelical world of, Texas Bible Belt. And
Wow.
so when I left the NFL, my life is chaos. A part of me was like, I need to get back to my roots.
Mm.
And that's a whole other story because this whole journey that I've been on, it's been a spiritual journey, but it's been a journey of deconstructing these really, really small boxes that I put around faith in God,
Yeah.
and really rediscovering the oneness that connects us all, which they don't really teach in an evangelical church in the Texas Bible Belt.
To say the least. Huh. Yeah.
So it was this beautiful container that created so much healing, but I turned my healing into a performance, and I still had all of these ideas and expectations of who I think I should be, and the healing was leading me to a bigger and better life. That's
Yeah.
what I kept telling, more healing, more healing, more healing. It was leading me to a bigger and better life that I would one day magically step into because I've done the healing work.
It almost sounds like you thought there was an end point.
Yes,
Said healing work.
100%.
Yeah.
And that all changed for me when I left there. I was sitting in the back of that church one evening, and I was like, holy shit. The same, like, the beautiful part about the healing work is it does reconnect you with the knowing. And as I began to intimately acquaint myself with the rhythms and the dancing of my knowing and the language of my knowing and the embodied experience of it, that knowing was like, oh, it's time to leave. And I'm like, what? Where the hell am I going? And through this strange series of events, I found myself moving to Los Angeles.
Hmm.
And you don't move to LA without all of without having the thoughts of all of the ways that your life is going to change. Like, it's a ecosystem that provides like the infinite possibilities of whatever you want to do. I swear to God, there is somebody there that is already doing it, or somebody there that knows somebody that can help you, right? It's
Yes.
like the
Yeah.
energy of Los Angeles is just so magical, but also so draining. But when I moved out there, I had all like, this is it. Finally, all my healing work has taken me to Los Angeles. What's next? TV, books, maybe
Sure.
a movie.
I love that.
And it's funny because I am out there and life is inviting me into this, like, surrender it, let go, grieve, like everything that I'm consuming and everything that I feel. I'm like starting to realize, wait, what I'm looking for, maybe it's not on the other side of an upward trajectory. Maybe it's on the other side of a downward descent.
Mm,
But my life is only materialized by doing more, achieving more, being more. Like,
mm,
how do I move my life forward in this new place? And I realized that it was in LA and the infinite possibilities of everything that could be that I started to realize that I moved out to LA not to create a bigger and better life, but to actually surrendering my life to need to look like anything else other than what it is.
mm.
And with that came so much loss
Yeah. Well,
and so
especially
much
in LA,
grief.
the
Yes.
context of the city you were in.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. It's just so like what a funny way of life
Yeah.
throwing, or God, throwing something at me, realizing
Mm.
that in this ecosystem where everyone is building bigger and better, I'm being asked to let go and to surrender and learn how to radically accept who I am, where I am.
Yeah. Once upon a time, I was a painter and I painted this little tiny piece that just said surrender to the soil. And there
Beautiful.
was a plant on it and it was terrible. I was a terrible painter, but it meant so much to me because I was in a similar boat, recognizing that I have this identity that I've carved and I have this strong pull toward so many things I know I could achieve if I just check the things off the
Yeah.
list, right? And recognizing that it's leaving me completely empty and brokenhearted and desperate
Mm,
for an external validation instead of recognizing my own authority and my own ability to be expressive and um, not self-absorbed, but really self-focused and in a way that allows for that inner growth to take place. So
sure.
that inner capacity can finally expand so that when imposter syndrome shows up and says like, "Oh, but don't you want to look like everyone else?" and be like, "Oh, hard
Sure.
pass." No, absolutely not.
No.
My own brand of chaos is at least personal and familiar and beautiful in its own way. And so that's a big, beautiful recognition
Hmm.
that you had.
Thank you. It
Yeah.
was I mean, I feel like I'm still living into the invitation that was extended to me in that moment. And I remember exactly where I was. Like I was literally driving up is the one, and I had pulled off on this little exit, and there was like I just saw like a rock cliff that I felt like I could climb down that would bring me down to the edge of the ocean. Um, and I was so angry and I was so mad because again, like everybody, my roommate was just became America's heartthrob on The Bachelor, like, the runner up, and everybody
Love
knows
it.
my roommate's name. And I'm over here like literally doing, sessions of embodiment work, helping my roommate overcome a breakup. I'm in the trenches with him, and all of a sudden, whew, his life explodes. And I'm like, what about me? And not that I wanted to be on goddamn not The Bachelor in any way or
Yeah.
means, but it was what it represented,
100%. Yeah.
and I remember sitting on that beach, and I just remember like allowing the waves, as cliche as it sounds, to become a metaphor of just washing away,
Yeah.
to rise up over me and to wash away everything that doesn't belong, and to leave me with what is, and just like, what does it look like to accept that? And I'll never forget, like I literally have it tattooed right here. It's June 3rd, 2019. And having this moment of realizing that on the other side of this anger, despair, frustration, and therefore this moment of surrendering, even though obviously this is a lifelong process, I
Mhm.
tasted something. And what I tasted was that ache that I alluded to earlier dissolving, but it dissolved on the other side of surrender, not on the other side of attaining.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I realized that, oh, wait a minute. And I had this sensation of, if my life never changes from way forward, from this moment forward, it's okay. Like it's
Yeah.
enough. It's actually enough.
Mm.
And I realized that it's this ache that has left me feeling like it's not enough. It was never about doing more, being more, achieving more. It was all about going back to the moments that reduced me into believing me that I'm not enough.
Yeah.
The shame, the grief. And so I literally have it tattooed on myself that says it's finally enough.
Mm.
Um, but that was just like my experience with LA. And strangely enough, shortly after that, I then meet my now wife, who has just been this
Mm.
magical person that is constantly mirroring back to me the invitation to go deeper into my life, deeper into this experience of love, deeper into this experience that there is something outside of my willpower and my ability trying to hold it together. There's something that's holding all
Mm.
of this together. And she's been this beautiful experience along with life to embody that truth at a deeper level, that there is something outside of my ability that's holding all of this together, and learning how to rest in that union, how to rest in that place, and allowing, like, this is the big shift, Mandy. It's like suddenly I'm no longer surviving my life, but I'm participating in my life.
Mm,
And it happened on the other side of grieving all of these unmet expectations and unfulfilled dreams and these secondary losses in my life.
yeah.
I'm now participating in my life. And the life that I thought would always come on the other side of some massive moment of success, I've realized has actually been with me all along. I just was never still enough, long enough to access it.
I just want to take a moment with that. And I hope that anybody who's listening actually can absorb that too, because you summarize so beautifully the whole reason why I emphasize the importance of grieving intentionally, right? So
Mm,
everything that I put into the world is heart, mind, body, spirit. We are whole beings. We need to grieve holistically in the way that we live holistically. And unwellness in one of those areas is intermingled with unwellness in all the other three. And
it's good.
the idea of metabolizing our grief in a way that allows us to embrace what is unknown rather than trying to control an outcome is truly where we begin to do the work of grieving. And that's, I mean, it's something I say almost daily is we can't grieve without doing the work of grieving. You have
Yeah,
to do the work. And it's horrifying because it doesn't guarantee, there's no guarantees and there's no guidebook necessarily, no matter how many of us grief professionals say we have a plan. I usually freak out when I hear someone say like, "Oh, I've got a prescription for you. I've got a program." I'm like,
sure.
"You are not trustworthy. Goodbye."
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So good.
I would say no shade to those people, but no shade. It's not, you can't do that.
Sure.
So, how did you take everything that you just experienced, which is significant, no small thing, right? True transformational growth internally, and transform it into a palatable external keynote speaking leadership career without, and hear me when I say this, like with all the love in my heart, without just being like, guys, there's purpose to all of the pain that you experienced. Like,
Hmm.
only because that can be such an unintentionally minimizing thing when you are not in a place mentally as a griever to move toward accepting the unknown.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's just like in a lot of ways, it's a easy way to bypass.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. My journey into communicating is communicating the essence of what I feel like is, you know, maybe my heart's message now that I'm sure will evolve as I continue to evolve has been an arduous, long, magical, but uncomfortable experience because for so many years I needed to be heard,
Mm,
which is still really, grounded in some sort of pain, something that is not yet, have has not been softly kissed with the lips of self-compassion.
yeah.
And my heartbeat, I think, with my message, and this is why it's been hard for me to get it actually into the keynote speaking world, because my message is not going to make you want to run through the wall and beat your chest and go make $1 million sell necessarily, you know? And I think those people are out there and that's important. But if that's where you're at in life, like you're just not my people and it's cool.
Yeah.
And so there's been such an evolution of acceptance of self and really honoring my own experience and story and choosing me with really finding my lane in the keynote speaking world, which I'm still discovering my lane. I feel like every time I do this, there's a little bit more discovery that I step into or that I taste.
Mhm.
But it's been my heartbeat at the end of the day to create a container and to provide context or language to some of the bigger questions that you don't even know to ask or that you're afraid to ask,
Mm,
and to put language to maybe some of your emotional experience or some of your life experience so that you better understand the next step that you are supposed to take, not what your coworker or your spouse or the people
mm,
around you like. What's your next step in this journey back home to yourself, or what's your next step into finding a life that you are satisfied and proud of? And so,
mm,
so much of my work is just like I have this bigger idea of, what once worked is no longer working. What has gotten us to where we are today is not what's going to carry us to where we want to be. Like the ruthless ambition, the dogged determination, the fierce attitude of do more, achieve more, be more. Fuck yeah, that shit works until it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I feel like on the other side of COVID, as so many people experience literal death, what we have all collectively experienced is a metaphorical death to the way life once was. And what we're being invited into is a new way of life. We're being invited into experiencing a rebirth individually and collectively. And this is why we're seeing a lot of systems beginning to topple. This is why we're seeing chaos energy rain down on us right now. And we're like, ah,
Yeah.
and it's scary. And it's also, it's inviting and it's exciting. Like, because things do need to topple before new life can appear, before this next evolution. If you look at spiral dynamics, we are in a spiral right now. We're like, there's an evolution of consciousness that's happening right now.
Yeah.
And so much of my work, I feel like, is to help articulate or help people realize that, hey, maybe there's a new way of doing things. Maybe we can continue to surpass expectations, sustain that next level of success, and also be wildly happy in the here and now. Like, what if we can win and not lose ourselves in the process?
Right.
A big question that I've asked myself for so many years is like, what does it look like to move my life forward from a posture of stillness?
Mm.
What does that look like?
Yeah.
Because I know how to strive and I know how to live on the extremes, but the extremes are not sustainable. What does it look like to move our lives forward from a posture of stillness, from a posture of rest? And I feel, might I suggest, Mandy, that we are all being invited into experiencing a new way of doing life on the other side of this massive metaphorical death that
Yeah.
we have all experienced. But this way into new life, it's not an external game, it's an internal game.
100%.
And so much of my work is, it's like I use the language of capacity, like creating more inner capacity within yourself and your team will be your greatest advantage, because capacity is going to allow you to move through the inevitable disruptions of change and strengthen resiliency. Because as we know, surviving does not lead to resiliency,
Right.
right? Capacity is going to help you into this next evolution of success and actually have the bandwidth to sustain that level of success.
Yeah.
And capacity is going to help you with your overall sense of well-being so that you can fucking crush it in life and
Yeah.
also show up at home and be fully present and engaged with the people that matter the most to you. Like, this is a new way of doing life, and it's a game of capacity, not a game of performance. And so I use capacity as this language to invite people in. Yeah, I want that. And then so many of the internal shifts that, through one of my big keynotes I give them, it was Albert Einstein that said, we can't solve a problem at the same level of awareness that created the problem.
Yes.
Our
Yeah.
awareness has to change. Like our mindset, the way we see things has to change.
Right.
So I provide these 4 big mindset shifts. And it's funny because it's literally one of them is about grieving. And so it's giving them this understanding of like, okay, in order to get different results, I have to be willing to do different. And these are the 4 areas that I need to lean into so that I can begin to see life change from the inside out.
How do you then look at the person who says, okay, you're right. It has been 4 years of COVID. And before that, I was experiencing XYZ in my life. How do you talk to the person who hears you say 5 years of in-home or live-in therapy, essentially, 5 years of really focusing and then transitioning everything? Not everybody has that level of
Sure.
intense capacity within themselves, but not even capacity. Um,
The
just
luxury.
the privilege, the luxury, the
Absolutely.
all of the intensity, the draw, the stamina. How would you encourage the person who has been grieving and experiencing loss after loss, compound losses for years, and then says, "Okay, I think I'm at the point of moving forward, but also I've been moving forward for 20 years and I don't know how to get over this exhaustion of all of these changes and all of these different things that keep saying, "Oh, you need to keep evolving, you need to keep like when do I just get to be me or feel empowered enough to be comfortable with the next change that comes?"
Wow. I don't know if I would, be able to really say anything to that person. I would say, can I give you a hug?
Oh, that's so
Um,
nice.
yeah, like genuinely, can I give you a hug? You know, I remember in the height of this chaos, pain, whatever you want to call it, somebody asked me a question, and the question was, is like, if your life never changed from this moment forward, would it be enough? And for so many years, it wasn't. It was never enough. Like, no, there needs to be more growth. There needs to be more healing. There needs just more and more. This can't be what is. Like, this can't be. And as I talked about, like, this idea of like this permission to finally be me and just, be in my life and it be enough, it came with acceptance. And it came with the acceptance of the parts of me that still stung from the rejection of life, like the very nuanced parts of me. And so there isn't a roadmap, unfortunately. There isn't an answer. It's not black and white. But I think the way out is still the way through. And the only thing that sometimes we can control is our willingness to either resist what is or to accept what it was, what is. And I think on the other side of acceptance, that non-resistance, it does create an internal peace that supersedes external experiences. I this might fuck with some people's heads or their idea of God. But what if God is the pain?
Hmm.
And what if God is inviting you into a deeper experience of love, not bypassing or not on the other side of pain, but in the pain? Like, what if God is the darkness and God is asking you to, sit in the darkness for how long? I don't know, until you are willing to sit in the darkness for as long as it takes. And you're wrestling your heart into this posture of surrendering that I will be in the darkness for as long as it takes. And it's not going to take as long as you think. What takes the most time is actually wrestling your heart into a posture of surrender. And so I'm rambling, but it's kind of I don't have the answer, but I know that oftentimes the invitation to discovering the answer and to living out into the answer. It's like Rilke's beautiful quote, of don't look for the answers now. Ask the right questions, and one day, maybe far off in the distant future, you'll live your way into the answer. And
Mm,
also Rilke, he beautiful quote. He says, and this is probably what I want to say. Sometimes I have to ramble. He says, if we can just trust the heaviness of our lives, like if we can surrender to Earth's intelligence and trust the heaviness of our lives. Earth's intelligence, what is Earth's intelligence? It's there's a season for everything. There's a metaphorical death and there's a rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth. If we can trust the heaviness of our lives, then we too could rise up rooted like trees.
mm,
What does it look like for you to begin to trust the heaviness of your life? Maybe that's God. What if we saw it differently? What if we saw it as not an obstacle to overcome, but an invitation to embrace? How might that differ our experience of this? And I think if we can lean into that again, after I give you a big hug, if we can lean into trusting the heaviness of our lives, maybe you too can rise up rooted like a tree.
that's beautiful. I like the imagery of that sans all of the dismissive way that we would attach a scripture to that and then say, now just go meditate on that for 6 weeks and you'll be good. You'll be solid. In fact, you'll be so
Oh,
blah, 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 blah. Because
yeah.
when you said, I love that metaphor. I always say when the winds blow harder, our roots go deeper.
I remember at the height of, do I have time for a story? Are you
Go
okay?
for it.
At the height of like the pain of like living a facade and this every day being a day of being afraid of like that I'm going to be found out
Mm,
and the imposter syndrome.
yeah.
My friends, or no, my teammates in Kansas City, they invited me to go to a theme park, and I'm desperate for friends, but also what you should know is I hate theme parks. Like I loathe them at this time of my life. And I wanted to, hang out with some group of guys because I was lonely. And so I said reluctantly, yes. And I remember, Mandy, when I tell you I got out of every ride that actually scared me, whether it was just my mom calling Hell, my grandmother called for the first time. Surprise. My stomach was hurting. I'll go get beers for everybody. I got out of every single ride and I thought I was home free. And we were not 100 feet from that back exit. And all of a sudden, I hear one of my teammates say, "Stop." And we all looked at him. He's like, "We're doing this." And he pointed up at this, like, I don't know how many feet it was, but it was a free fall.
Oh,
And the thing about this ride is like you didn't do it solo, you did it with a partner, and there were six of us. So we all had somebody to go with. And I'm trying to get out of it. They were giving me a hard time saying, like, if I don't go with Zeke, some stranger is going to have to go with Zeke. So I say yes. And sure enough, it was our turn to go, and they hoisted us up like so high. Like you can obviously see the ends of the earth. Like I'm just up there. And how it was positioned is the person on the inside, there was a like a stoplight, red, green, or red, yellow, green. And once it hit green, you pull this cord and this cord drops you. And I was on the inside and it went red, yellow, green, and I did not pull the cord. Like I'm actually frozen. My nervous system,
yeah.
I'm in freeze. I am not doing anything. And Zeke is yelling at me, pull the cord, pull the cord, pull the cord. And I'm like, no, no, no. And then I start to cry. And Zeke looks at me and realizes that, like, oh shit, this is actually serious. Like, you're not playing around. This is scary.
Yeah.
And I remember like minutes have passed, and now the damn guy that's in charge of the ride has like this bullhorn, pull the cord. Now I got like a whole group of people surrounding the bottom of the ride, like looking up at me, like watching and observing. And I'll never forget Zeke. He grabs me by the arm. He says, "Caleb, I'm so sorry this is happening. So compassionate, such a good man." And he says, "Just pull the cord. We're gonna go home. Let's get through this together. Like we'll go home." And he said, "One, two, three," and I pulled that cord. And Mandy, when I tell you, like those first like fractions of a second of that free fall were terrifying. But then what happened afterwards is something that radically shaped my life. And in the free fall, in the letting go, in the fall, I started to hysterically laugh. And the joy and the satisfaction and the happiness that I felt was unmatched. Like I felt fully alive and fully free. And that excitement turned into tears of just me sobbing, but it was happy tears.
Yeah.
And I remember I didn't have language for it at first, but that free fall was in a lot of ways at that time a prophecy for the life that I was getting ready to live into.
Mm.
And what it was is that for the first time in my life, I experienced that there was something outside of my willpower and outside of my ability holding my life together. But the only way that I could experience it, this embodied experience of union, of oneness,
Hmm.
was by letting go, was by surrendering.
Mm.
And that had become this metaphorical experience, or not metaphor, this has become a literal experience for this metaphorical way of life. Of I believe that all of us are being invited. I think it's Charles Berman. He wrote a book. Oh, I'm skipping on it, but he calls it the original knowing. And the original no, a kinesthetic knowing. And it's a knowing that we experience in the womb, that there's something holding it's in our DNA, that there is something holding our ability. There's something holding our lives together outside of our ability. And our whole life journey is a rediscovering of this divine union, is a rediscovering of our original knowing, this kinesthetic knowing that there is something out there that's holding this all together. And it's learning how to, in each invitation, life is extending us an invitation to surrender, to let go, to go into the ache, to go into the darkness,
Yeah.
to go into the pain, to go into all of this and to make a home in it and to lean into it and to be compassionate towards yourselves and to kiss it and to, I don't know, make love to it, but to become one with it. And this is the process of healing. I'm not trying to be elusive or esoteric. It's literally the process of healing.
Yeah.
And on the other side of it is this embodied experience of you reconnecting to your original knowing that something is holding this all together. And I say all that because your little mantra, like my mantra is that I am held. I will literally look at my wife in moments of hard times and I'm saying, Kara, we're held. Like it's the moments that when life is not turning out the way that I thought they were going to turn out, I look at myself in the mirror, I'm saying, I'm being held. It's my original knowing. There's something outside of my ability holding this all together. And what that does for me is it enables me to stay in my life, to continue to participate in my life, even in the struggle, even in the challenge, not move to survival mode, but to stay participating in my life. And so I say all that because I don't know. I don't know why I said that, but go get your mantra. Go live into your mantra, whatever it might be. Go live into that thing that you can hold close to your hearts as you say yes, to going deeper into your own life.
That's so beautiful, Caleb. Thank you for taking time to share that story.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to talk.
Absolutely. I was thinking about how, well, you embraced the willingness to be like the hysterical laughter. Every time somebody says, I can't control what's coming and I'm
Mm,
okay with that, freedom is the experience.
yeah, that's it.
Embodied laughter is
That's it.
it's that energy moving so quickly and it comes out in a form of joy because we've been holding so tightly, like
Mm-hmm.
tensely. And it's a release that feels like, I don't know, it feels like that loosey goosey feeling when we're
Yeah.
kids and we're learning to walk and then we get it and we're like, I can't control my limbs, but I like
Mhm.
it. So it's
Yeah.
fine.
It's like a big exhale in a really, really beautiful
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. Caleb, this has been such a wonderful, wonderful conversation. And I'm
Thank
so
you.
grateful that you made space. Before we go, are there any things you want people to come and find you, like look you up? I know you write
Uh,
wonderful things on Twitter.
oh,
Um,
I need to. I don't need to do anything, but I
you
would like
don't.
to get more active with it. No, I think just my website, calebcampbell.me, has a lot of, the work that I'm doing in the world today. Um, Sometimes active on Twitter, sometimes active on Instagram, but
Yeah.
sometimes active on LinkedIn. But I have a 15-month-old daughter at home, and so
Be
spending
more
a lot of
active
time with
there.
her.
Yeah.
I'm
Much more
much more
fun,
active there. Yep.
more rewarding, all the things. Well, I am so grateful that you were here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to episode 89 of Restorative Grief. I think of all the beautiful things Caleb shared today, my favorite is the idea of bravely leaning into the margins of our lives to find what lies at the center. We spend so much of our time as humans avoiding the reality of who we might be right now and who we can become. Whether it's because we know we will disappoint people we love or because we're afraid to believe in ourselves so fully. But Caleb is living proof that taking the leap is worthwhile. As we briefly addressed in our conversation, it is a privilege and requires deep vulnerability to make so much space in one's life for years of self-reflection. But the growth Caleb experienced is not limited to the way he experienced his transformation. So as you reflect on what you heard today, may your own spirit soften and surrender to the soil you stand on as you wait for the stillness of healing and embodied knowing that you already carry to surface. If this is your first time listening to Restorative Grief, thank you for being here. Grief is not an easy topic, but your choice to join the conversation makes it a healthier community in your life and mine. If you're interested in learning more about restorative grief, consider joining our Patreon community or my free coaching group, the Restorative Grief Project, on Facebook. I love hearing new voices in this work and finding out what really impacts your grief experience too. You can check out the show notes for links to my Patreon, group coaching, and more, as well as Caleb's work, as well as a few of the concepts we discussed today. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you can hear about all the new episodes the moment they're out, and obviously, leave a 5-star review. I love them. They make me so giddy. And as always, one last thing. Please remember, the only solution for grief is to do the work of grieving. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week.